Hello, welcome to another episode of the Inforunners. This is Haze, and above we have...
This is Execute, and to my right...
We've got Algared. How are you going?
And today we're talking about funding and StarCitizen. We're going to be looking at the original Kickstarter launch for StarCitizen and how that managed to fund, and going towards the current day funding models that we've seen so far to date, and then looking into the future to see what we think might have in store for future funding models for, let's say, Squadron 42 release and eventual PU release.
Yeah, this is a topic that we looked at ourselves a while ago, we want to talk about, and I think in the last couple of weeks we've had some interesting developments with other YouTubers as well, so we might even look at that as we go along. I remember the original Kickstarter. I actually saw it the first day it came out, and I pledged within, I think, the first week. And it just seems so long ago, like it was like 6 years ago now. And back then, it was just like every other Kickstarter. I think now it is extremely different. Do you remember back when you guys first pledged?
Yeah, but I only pledged more recently. Algared has a couple of years on me, so. But I have seen screenshots of the original Kickstarter. Do you know how much it actually raised, approximately?
It had a lot raised on the actual website. I think it only raised like a couple of million. I think it was only...
That was a lot for that time and age, though.
It was about 2 or 4 million, somewhere in there. I'd actually have to go look it up, to be 100% honest with you, because it's been so long ago.
Yeah, it was fairly low considering what we've got now.
And they did make a fair bit on their own website at the same time. And then they had to migrate everyone that was on Kickstarter over to the actual website. And that took me a really long time to do. I think my Kickstarter backer number is like 90,000. Yet, because I was there since the beginning, it should have been in the 20,000. I just took really long time to switch over. But now I run into people like Haze, that has been around for a few years. And I remember when I was doing Star Signal, Colby and Chris were both really kind of annoyed at me because my number was so low, because they were in about 400,000s. And even by today's standards, that's really low. But yeah... a lot's changed in the time. Whereabouts did you come into the fray, Algared?
Oh, I think I'm about 400,000.
So about the same time as Chris and Colby. All right, cool. Yeah. So, I guess we should start out where it was in Kickstarter. Kickstarter, there was only a few ships. I remember the Cutlass, the Constellation. My actual pledge at the time was the Bounty Hunter, which is now the 300i. And then I know they had another one, but I can't remember the name, but was the one for the Aurora. And I think the biggest one... I actually can't... I think there was a bigger one.
The biggest one was the Connie. Because the first 5 were the Connie,
and that was about...
Lancer.
It was about 200...
the Scythe as well, didn't they?
The Scythe came later. That was actually on their website. That wasn't on actual Kickstarter. So the biggest one that I remember was probably the Constellation. And it was about $225. And the Constellation that I actually have costs $225. If you go and buy an Andromeda today, I think it's about $275. So it's gone up a little bit in that time.
Andromeda, well, it depends if you got the game package attached, but yeah.
That's with a game package attached. Mine was with a game package attached for $225, which is kind of crazy. And I've actually got a Rear Admiral pack, and that comes with a silver collector's edition box. And I remember when they first offered that, I think they only had a couple of hundred. If you actually got in early, there was a signed one, so you can actually get a collector's edition box signed by Chris Roberts. And I think once they got over about 250, he's like, oh man, I have to sign all these boxes. So they didn't offer the signed ones anymore. Same price, but just didn't offer them signed.
That became a feature of the completionist physical pack.
Yeah, so getting them signed.
The original completionist pack actually had a physical. Wow, that's interesting.
The original completionist did have a physical, lots of goods in there.
Yeah, and there was lots of cool little physical goods, and And one thing I really remember from the Kickstarter that was really driven home, and I think this is going to come into a point later when we talk about today, is there were no Kickstarter, or there was promised to be no exclusivity. Everything that you could get in Kickstarter and in buy for the game would be available in the game. And I think we're going to probably see a really big change in that. I think we're already starting to see a change where even with the Vulcan, and I think that sale wrapped up yesterday, or today actually, Aussie time.
I meant to keep chopping and changing things, but we should probably stick back to our topic. We've actually got a pivot to cover today.
Yep.
So we have the Kickstarter, and it was actually one of the most successful Kickstarters for its time. It sort of was a record-setting, I believe, for its time.
No. It wasn't. Actually, the biggest record at the time was a game by Obsidian. They were the guys that do RPGs, I think. And they had another one that was a couple of million in front. I think they got 6 million, where Chris Roberts only got 4 or something like that. So, yeah, it was pretty big, but it wasn't the biggest. Now, it's definitely the biggest.
I guess what sets them apart from all of the Kickstarters to date is that they never stopped crowdfunding. And that has been highly successful for them, to the point where I think other people might have tried to imitate it a little bit, but no one's managed to garner continued support and continued funding like StarCitizen has.
Yeah, and the difference with Obsidian and StarCitizen, Obsidian might be the biggest Kickstarter, but I think StarCitizen had become the biggest crowdfunded game at the end of their Kickstarter because they had the funding from their their own website as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If you're thinking the Kickstarter, not including
that is exactly what Algared said. From Kickstarter, they got about 4 million, but they had more from their own website. But if you're specifically talking Kickstarter, then Obsidian was the biggest. If you're talking crowdfunded,
and that was really, really important too, because that money they raised on their own website is avoiding the Kickstarter-based fees.
Yep.
It's all money into their pocket. And you've seen that at a lot of crowdfunding games recently. Like I just backed a game, I think it was called Iron Harvest, which is like a World War II mech type game. I backed their last game as well, the Doors they brought out. The thing is, they did it all on their own website. They call it a Kickstarter, but it's not a Kickstarter.
Yep. No, I saw that. It looked really cool.
And so, like, a lot of other games companies are moving away from Kickstarter, especially the bigger ones, and just saying, here's our backing site, come and you can pledge directly to us. And you've seen that with like Obsidian Games and other ones putting together things like Fig. I know people say, oh, I don't like that, but you got to understand, they get 100% of their money.
Yeah, you've got to weigh up the people. You're asking people to give up their security and the chance of ever getting their money back, which is what Kickstarter kind of offers. But Kickstarter have a $2,000 fee minimum for every pledge that you put up. So it's or every, what do you call it when you put one up? I don't know what they're called, but you get what I'm talking about.
They also get a percentage of all money raised as well. So
which is what? But
it's not.
Kickstarter is also owned by Amazon, which is kind of strange when you know that, and you just kind of look at it in a different light when you know that. I reckon after the Kickstarter, things kind of went on, and they've had some kerfuffles along the way, like the Scythe, where they offered that for $350, and it's now worth a bajillion. It might as well be. It's worth a lot of money now.
Plus.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And when you look at the ship, it's kind of funny because when you put it next to the Glaive already eats it for breakfast. But it's the only alien ship that's not Xperia based. It's kind of going to be
let's not go so much about like kerfuffles or not. The main thing we want to talk about is that the way they've changed their crowdfunding model, which is basically selling ships. Has changed over the years. Like what we knew just after the Kickstarter, where they were basically selling ships, to the idea that they brought in CCUs where you could start altering pledges, and then the melt and buyback systems. To be honest, these have been incredibly successful funding models. I know there's plenty of people who do not like the idea of limited exclusivity sales, and how you can, the whole LTI argument, which I don't want to discuss in this episode, because it's just a big pit to get stuck in. But the thing is, this has been incredibly successful for them over the years, and it has evolved and continued to try and evolve, and chip prices have gone up. But this is what sets it apart from every other crowdfunding game in history, is the fact that they've been a huge success that has not been ever seen before. I mean, we're at 180 million plus at the moment. That's unheard of.
The whole thing with the actual reason for its success, I think a lot of it actually has to do with the fidelity of the ships. I know we kind of like meme on fidelity a lot, especially on the subreddit, but I actually think that's got a lot to do with it. You're not just buying like a race car from another game, which isn't really a car. These ships
It's
have
like buying GTA 5 cars, you know, It's like, who cares?
Yeah, the cars and in other games and vehicles and that in other games are just not to the same detail they are. Like, yes, the textures in this game are great, but it's not that. It's just the, like, what you can do with them already and what we know we're going to be able to, you know, the ability to put components in and actually close the doors. And you start to see that on the Terrapin and stuff like that now. But I think that's going to go to a much higher level as time goes on.
Yeah, the fact that we can actually see the ships, move in the ships. I even think it's like normally in a game you get your ship or your car and you drive it and you might be able to get out of it, but you can't really move around in it. Whereas
or put things into it, or store stuff you own into it, or upgrade it, and it becomes a home.
It's effectively almost like the house in most other games where that you can decorate, you can move around it, you can look around it. That's unique. And then the fact that you've got the components you can change out, and the fact that the ships look great and everything else, that is all coming into it as well.
No,
I think it's every person's dream to own a ship they can call their own, and that's what sells.
And I think you're right there. And all the little things that have been promised along the way as well. So little things like customizing your ship and stuff like that, making them your own, is definitely going to be a part of it. And I think the open development might be another part of it as well, believe it or not. Warts and all, I was really interested in seeing a game of this size be developed. I did actually, for a really long time, feel really included in that process, but that's kind of changed as it's got bigger, and with the way the PTU and the EVIC Cardi, as that's come in as well, I think that's kind of changed my perspective on it as well. But I was hoping to be all part of that process back in the beginning. I was really looking forward to that.
Well, I think it's also the dream of what Star Citizen aims to be. It's like it's got so many different features and aspects to it that other games, they don't even try. They don't have the ambitions to
and while people that ambition and that scope might seem over the top, it really does say it's a living, breathing world. It's not just a shooter, it's not just a race game, it's not just a hauling game, it's all of them, and that does give it that sense of
It's like
it has evolved really, because when you got Chris Roberts, his dream promised during the Kickstarter video is widely different from the dream that has grown out to what we see today.
Yeah,
I think that's why people continue investing in it, that sort of dream.
It's free of the publisher. It's free of the publisher. That was a big draw card for me. Being able to dream big and actually make the game that he wanted to make. Back when I made games...
Why I start most games is because it's free of a publisher, because they have a vision, and I know that they're not going to be constrained to push it out.
Back when I made games, publishers used to just pull everything out of it, and you'd go from this really cool game design document to really like 6 degrees of separation, where you might have made a game that was it had bungee jumps in it and all this other stuff. It was a first-person shooter with bungee jumps and all this, and they'd strip it right back to the same as the last game, but with one different weapon. And that weapon would be the whole thing that sets it apart. So to give an example, like Portal's a first-person shooter, but it uses a portal gun. That type of analogy, and they really weren't that much different for the games before it. And they don't like to innovate, and I think that's another thing we've seen with these guys, is they've made so much new tech, it's disgustingly taking a long time, but it's really cool. Like, I remember the first time we saw localized physics grids, and like Algared said, walking around on a ship, and they had someone standing behind the pilot as the pilot was making the whole universe spin, and you had the whole Port Alisar rotating in the window screen. And if you ever tried to do something like that on another game previously, the character would be skidding and jittering all over the place because they just couldn't keep up with the network code. All the little things they've done along the way have really impressed me, and it's all starting to come together really nicely now.
So for me, it wasn't the nature of no firm running it or backing it. It was the fact that I had that Crow McClure moment. Chris saying, "Hi, I'm Chris Roberts. You might remember me from such games as," and for me, that was it. I knew Wing Commander had pushed for the limits of computers back in the day. I knew that Chris, if he was coming to make a game, was going to do exactly the same. So for me, I knew it was going to push the limits of the PC, and it'd be an awesome game.
Algared, to actually tell you what mine was lots of little things like I mentioned, but my moment was watching the Kickstarter video and it said, "And I'm a PC game." That was all it took for me. I was like, "Yep, cool, have my money," because I knew Chris Roberts. And I'm a PC game, and I'm a space sim, and I'd been waiting for the next, because I was a huge fan of Freelancer. I was also fans of Wing Commander and Privateer and all that as well, but Freelancer I really liked. I put a lot of time into that, and I was always wondering when he was going to make another one. And then when I, found out he left, I was like, "Oh, it's never going to happen." And as soon as I heard he was back, yeah,
it's basically before the Star Citizen Kickstarter. Space games were in a less sort of dead area. There's not much going on.
Now they're back.
Just by having, I know that it sort of revitalized interest. People said, "Wow, people are actually interested in this. Let's make games for this now." Again, like we did in the past.
To go back to our topic of funding, I do recall that Chris saying, "Look, at the end of Kickstarter, we said, do you want us to keep funding? Do you want us to keep gathering the funding?" And everyone said, "Yes, keep going." And the proviso was, if we get the funding, we're going to increase the scope of the game. And so everyone said, keep growing the game, keep growing the funding. And so the funding kept going. Nowadays, people get frustrated that the game's taking so long and they're fundraising.
Yeah. I don't listen to those people. They're the loudest whingers out of a very large group of people who probably think otherwise.
A loud minority is the term you're looking for.
Yes, a loud minority. Yeah. Anyway, going back on the funding models, so we've talked about like the past, where it came from, and probably more up to current day about funding. But looking into the future, how is funding models going to evolve, like leading up to Squadron 42 and the PU release? Do you think they're going to change too much, like what they're doing right now?
I think we're seeing it. And getting back to what I was saying about exclusivity stuff, we now know of, as of I think next month, exclusive skins for guns for subscribers.
They should have done it a lot earlier. Like ship skins would be so popular. It'd be easy money.
I think their number of subscribers is going to increase. I really do. I'm very tempted to subscribe myself. I'm one of those people that collect every type of skin. That's just the type of person I am. I had no interest in the flares because it was just in the hangar, and I'm like, well, who's ever going to come see my hangar? But if I'm out there and I've got like a Hello Kitty sniper rifle or whatever the skin's going to be,
where'd you get that?
You're forgetting all those flare items are things you can put in places, and eventually,
we'll see.
Hope you'd be able to put them in your ship.
Yeah, again, like, I'm one of those people, like, skins you can look at many different games for the way they do skins, but there's the skins that you see, and then there's the skins that others see, and some people like one and some people like the other. Like, I can tell you, our one friend, Diabolus, I can see him with a Hello Kitty skin sniper rifle, and if it was like in Rainbow Six when you kill someone and it went to the screenshot and here you see Diabolus, he's just killed you with his Hello Kitty skin, he would have that in a heartbeat, knowing him. But anyway,
and pink tracer rounds to go with it. It's but here's an example. Think of a Hello Kitty pink Starfarer skin. Now, most people hate Hello Kitty, not Hello Kitty, Star Kitten.
Yep.
But that would sell off the shelves like hotcakes. People would buy that just so they could show it off. I mean, it would be an incredibly popular skin, and it's not even a popular community sort of.
The other classic is the Big Bennies. The Big Bennies.
They have a Reliant Core Big Benny skin, and they've never sold it, and yet I'm pretty sure people would buy the Reliant Core just to get the skin.
Yep. I've actually kind of thought about their skin system. This is a slight tangent, but rather than selling skins, like how you've got the Nox Q and stuff like that, what they're better off doing is selling exclusive decals. So everyone can have a white Nox, but can you have a Nox that has the Hello Kitty
Star
decal,
Kitten.
or the Star Kitten on it. Sorry, yeah. So that once you have that decal, then you can apply it to any ship you own. That's how I would do it personally. So you can either be really greedy and sell that decal on a ship by ship basis, or you can sell it as in you own that decal. Now you can put it on any other ship. I think that would be the way I would go, because then you can still do the color system for everyone. But the ability to have like a skull with flames down the side of your ship.
They make one decal, they can use it on multiple ships. And
That's
people
right.
probably buy everything just to switch them out and try something new on occasion.
Yeah. And that's how I would do it.
You make a skin just for a ship. Only people with that ship is going to buy that skin.
That's right.
You make
I think my memory is worth it.
Everyone will buy it.
With their tanks and their planes, you know, you can buy the decals and apply them. I think they also charge.
The other thing that I'm interested about is the fact that, okay, we've only had one concept between January and March.
Yeah,
and it went from a whole month. They're changing, instead of like exclusive, you can only get it now on a 10-day period, to like giving a whole month and then having several months of rest. I'm not saying I don't dislike that.
6 weeks, wasn't it?
You're right. It was a little longer than a month.
Because they had 1 week for the concierge, and then they had 5
it went over
weeks.
This month.
Yeah, it was 5 weeks in total. So 5 plus 1 is 6. Yeah.
One of the things that people complained about was the fact that, you know, that you'd get this very short sale that would plug, you know, make you feel it was urgent. You get the Q&A after it was done. So
yeah, this was right. They were 3 weeks late on the Q&A, I think, but it didn't matter, did it?
No. I definitely think they need the Q&As up front. We've talked about this before. With the Q&As, it's probably better for them to let people impulse buy, and then once it's settled down, Q&A, so more people buy. But a lot of really wise people wait to the Q&A. The other part with the Vulcan was those exclusive skins that they offered. I think that was a really wise move, because I brought them myself, and I know there's other
selling
people
them separately.
Yep,
Yeah.
that will just buy just the skins. But as we've just said before, I think decals are the way to go. I don't think that's something that they've looked at, and I think that, like, imagine if you could take those repair decals or the rearming decals or whatever they are and put them on other ships, so you could make a reclaimer a repair vehicle or whatever you want to, you know. That would be really kind of cool, I think. But that's probably not something that they've thought of. They've just gone skins because that's what everyone else does.
But I don't think that's a bad
if they were
idea,
looking at that, they'd also need to look at doing locations where those decals could go. I'd love to see, you know, the ability to do racing ships and have decals all over it. But
now, what was interesting was the Vulcan sold very well. Like over the 5-week period, they did get a decent amount compared to what they normally sell in a concept sale. So it wasn't detrimental. But the thing is, they're doing less sales less often. Of course, with these quarterly releases, they also sold other ships. Like on the 3.1 patch, they sold the Reclaimer. They sold the Nox Q, which is, okay, selling a limited ship again, but okay. A lot of other ships, the Cyclone went on sale again. So, you know, I'm not sure how much money they actually got from that, because it was sort of overlapping sale still. I know.
We all know.
At St. Patrick, we all know how much money they made on that, because they only sold exactly, what was it, 250?
Yeah, and they're already up on the black market for $475.
Yeah, people really wanted those LTO Phoenixes, so.
And they really should have spread them out. But anyway, one thing I was going to add as well is with the Reclaimer and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure though, once they went to 3.1, a lot of people, knowing it was available in game, would have said purchase those ships, those flight ready ships.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to get some kind of numbers from CIG of how much, once a ship goes kind of live, does it sell. I'd be really curious to know how many people are like, I'll wait to see that in game before I buy, because we've got
now it is in game, and now I'll buy it, you know. Yeah,
we've got this group of people that invest, and then there's people that want to see proof of concept, and I hear that a lot from people regarding the game in general. We talk about that.
I know a number of people who got raises because it was now flyable, and they didn't have one before that. They got it because it was in game, and they wanted it now.
Yeah. So with funding, how many people are going to actually buy Star Citizen once it's released? I actually that kind of scares me, because
three types of people who buy ships. There's the people who buy concept, either because they want the ship or they want to support the game. There's the people who wait for the ship to be flyable and then buy the ship.
Yep.
And then there's the third group of people who are waiting till they can buy the ship in-game.
We've skipped ahead a bit, so we're not quite there to PU release. What comes before PU release? Squadron 42. Squadron 42 is the next big funding hurdle. When Squadron 42 releases, they will sell more copies of Squadron 42 than they have in pre-release, because suddenly, instead of people, a very small percentage of people Kickstarter a game, even a larger percentage of people end up buying it on release because they get like reviews, whether they be in magazines or online, or their friends say, "Oh, you've got to buy this." At the end of the day, the majority of the sales of Squadron 42 are going to be coming as a AAA game on its actual release, and that's going to be a huge funding boost to them if it gets the sort of reviews that say, "Hey, this is a game you've got to get."
I know what you're about to say, Algared, so let me just cut you off here very quickly. It has to be a bloody success, because if it's not, the game's dead in the water.
Yeah, it does.
That's why they're taking. That's why they're taking their time with it. They know they're going to get it right.
Oh, look, I've got no doubt. I've got no qualms at all. The game is going to be a success in terms of that. But in terms of the amount of game sales that will sell, it may not be as big as you expect, because a lot of people who've already got the accounts have actually bought the game and the Squadron 42 pack, and so.
Yeah, but is it, even if they sold only like 1 million copies of Squadron 42, that's a success. That's a huge amount of funding. At the end of the day, that is enough, and that's a very low sales figure for a AAA game.
It'll be $60 a copy, and at $1 million, there's $60 million. That's insane.
And that's lowballing it, you know. And they've already had the development paid up to this point, and suddenly get another 60 million in the drop of the bucket on top of continued crowdfunding for PU.
And you look at a game like this.
Episode 2 comes on 2 years probably after that, for another, 60 million or more.
You got to look at some other factors in Squadron 42. The actors in it alone, I know people who buy the game just based on that. It's heavily story focused. You're going to get all those nostalgic people that come out of the woodwork for Wing Commander, stuff like that. Mark Hamill's in it. Like just I can every actor I've heard of. Like even the other day, I linked one to you, Haze. Remember? And the guy that plays Superman was found to be in it, and it hasn't been announced, but he's in it, which is just crazy. All these people that we haven't seen are still to be announced, and I just think he's got a phenomenal cast, and I think I can even
about it this way as well.
I can even
a year after.
I was going to say, I actually think you'll even see it on movie sites, like people going, like how they do a movie review. People will actually almost review the cinematic and the acting in it, because it's
it's a very cinematic game.
Yeah, and you see the technology they're showing off of Andy Serkis as well. You know how they showed the stuff of Andy Serkis? I actually think they'll use this as a benchmark for other cinematics in games, and the bridging the divide between film and games. Because I've got a feeling that this is going to be... It's something you can tell Andy Serkis' company is in a little bit of trouble because of the advertising they've been doing. But I think when this comes out, it might bring a bit more business. Yeah. Sorry, Algared, you're saying...
I was just agreeing that in terms of the AAA actors and all the rest of it, and I think part of that comes from Chris's time doing direction, doing movies. It gave him those links with people, and the fact that you've got Mark Hamill saying, "Oh, you're doing another show? Where can I sign up?" So when you got people who've enjoyed working with you in the past signing up and they're big names, it helps draw others in as well.
Well, the other thing is, like, once the Squadron 42 is out, it takes very little effort and time, because most of the tools and the game engine's in place to put out the next episode. Like, they can literally... it's not too much of a stretch to say...
No, I'm laughing at something else, don't worry. It's just an idea I had. I'll tell you in a minute.
18-month releases between Squadron 42 and Episode 2.
He actually stated it'll be about 2 years, he reckons. He reckons when the first one's released, he says he reckons he'd like to have the next one out within 2 years after that. He said that,
and that's like
ages ago.
That's guaranteed funding on top of whatever the PU gets, which means the PU is sort of subsidized, and the Squadron 42 is self-subsidized by the PU. It's a really interesting thing, because you got two business models that sort of cross-fund and develop each other.
And
that's really amazing.
And once they actually release Squadron 42, a lot of the all the pipelines are in place. He's actually said it'll speed it up because they've just got to film it. Not as much technology has to be developed. They have said though they want to, in the second one, they wanted you to have the ability to go into the alien ships. So obviously that's probably where a lot of the time's going to be spent, like actually building the insides of the alien ships. But in the first one, sorry,
but again they'll have a ship pipeline.
They'll have the AI in place. They'll have all that stuff.
They'll have the style guide set up as well. They'll have the AI. So a lot of the things that they'd need will actually already be done. So it'll make it a lot quicker, even if they still have to
going back to funding now, though.
Yep.
The other thing we haven't actually talked about is the fact that it'd take very little effort to port Squadron 42 C release to consoles like 12 months down the track. Or even a 6 months.
I reckon
it really doesn't take that much. They're going into Vulcan. It's multi-platform.
There'll be some people that really blow back at that, though, man.
It doesn't matter. It's money.
Yeah, it is money, and I actually reckon they should do it, quite honestly. But
I don't think they're not going to release it like console exclusive. It's going to be PC. And look at games like what was the recent one from Larian Studios? I can't remember the name. Like RPG of the Year. Come on, help me out
Kingdom
here.
Come Deliverance.
No, Larian Studios. They did Divinity, the original Sin 2.
That one. Yep.
That was out PC exclusive, but then it's later down the track, like a couple months' time, they put it out to consoles, and it's sold ridiculous amounts of money and copies. And there's no reason why they shouldn't tap into that. If Squadron 42 is a renowned game, there's going to be all these console players who don't have a PC who have never played it, and they will literally, as soon as they see there's a big AAA title to get, they'll, hand over the money for it. And that's free money. This is the product they've already developed. They only have to put a little bit of time to make sure it runs properly on consoles. They can scale down the graphics. This is free money for them. To anyone who argues they should not put it out on consoles...
Did I hear you swear?
Maybe.
Scale back the graphics?
Yeah, that's the one thing.
Consoles we're talking about.
No, he's right. They've actually stated that a lot of consoles they tested on couldn't actually power the graphics. So if they can scale it back successfully, the game already uses controllers. That's actually one of the things that annoys me a little bit about this game is when they show it off, they're always playing it with a controller. Have you noticed that? All the time. Yeah. They don't use a joystick, they don't use a mouse keyboard.
Walk slowly, and they might.
Favorite.
They got that mouse scroll thing where you can walk more slowly now, so maybe they'll start using that for once.
Don't get me started on that. That still needs to be the acceleration for ships, in my opinion. But
anyway, going back to funding, that is a very big option for them. So if they make 60 million on PC, imagine they make half that much on consoles, which I don't think they will. I think they'll make, if they set it on PlayStation 4 and Xbox alone, that will be they'll double the money.
Yeah,
they get them Squadron.
I do think
what would be the clincher would be if Amazon actually go for a console. If Amazon decided to go for a console system, you could almost guarantee it'll go for a console.
Yeah, I think they're going to wait to see how their TV series Lord of the Ring pans out. They've spent 500 million on that, and Amazon Prime is not very big at the moment. They're trying to obviously use that to do that. But
it's big overseas. Australia doesn't have HBO because the Foxtel have. Anyway, we're going so off topic.
Yeah, I know.
Back to funding. The next part of the funding phase is going into the PU, where previously they've promised to wind back ship sales, but I don't think they're going to get rid of the crowdfunding base because it's such a successful funding model. Why kill the goose that lays the golden eggs?
Yep. I was actually saying to Haze the other day, there are about 128 ships in. They promised 200 ships before launch, so we've still got 72 ships to go, which, that includes variants, is actually still that's a lot of ships to go.
You know what I think they're going to do? They're going to stop selling ships made to date, but they'll still do ship concept sales. So you can only buy ships that are not in game yet and haven't been produced, but all the ones that have been produced up to date, they'll cut off and you can't buy them anymore. Unless it's smaller starter ship types to get into the game.
I can see that.
Well, I think that makes sense in terms of what we've said in terms of, the 2945 Aurora, the 2947 Aurora, the 2949 Aurora. You'll get to a point where those early model ships you can't get, but they'll be collector's editions because, hey, that's a really old ship.
Which is kind of interesting because it makes you wonder if they'll all go the way of the Scythe. You know what I mean? If they mysteriously just say they never sold the Connie again, and they move to another ship completely. It fills the role of the Connie, but it's made by Anvil, and they don't make it anymore. Can you imagine the value of an LTI Connie?
Well, could you imagine?
I honestly don't think LTI will play a case, but that's another topic for another day.
Could you imagine if the Connies that were originally done were Mark IIIs?
Yeah.
Instead of what we've got now, which is effectively a Mark V, which is coming off.
God,
That's the
it's
model
horrible.
anyway.
Don't do this. Don't go there.
Yeah. Yeah, I the other thing, well, I don't know if it's about you were talking about the PTU. They've also stated they're going to be allowing you to buy currency for real money to try and stop gold farmers. How active do you guys reckon that'll actually be a part of the game? And it almost worries me. Are they going to balance it enough? Yeah, but
the small-time players who just wants a little bit of gold instead of buying it from the grey market and then instantly getting banned, which is what happens in most MMOs. Don't get me wrong. They gold sellers don't care about their clients, and they don't care if their account that they farmed on got banned like every so often. They'll sell it. Someone will find traded for nothing, and they'll just ban the account without question. That's how the standard MMO practice is. Undercutting that smaller amount of people who only want just a little bit, they can cut out the gold sellers completely, or most of them.
But it won't stop out gold sellers, even if they're selling a little bit, because you can buy credits for Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars, and yet you still get spam from the gold farmers.
Yeah,
but some MMO communities are able to crack down on that so heavily that no one's considering. Anyone with anything sort of clout or like inventory in the game will never risk going to a gold seller because they know.
But then it can also turn people off playing because they make the game so tight that you have to just top your account up so you can stay above water. I've seen it done in MMOs before where they had a certain percentage of money you'd get per quest, and then just by them dropping it 5 to 10%, it was just enough for you to not have enough profit that you had to top your stuff up. And so people will go, oh, well, I'm paying $5, or I can go here and pay $2. So they'll risk doing it. I don't think
StarCitizen is going to risk the heavy microtransaction.
Yeah, well, we'll see, man. Because I'm in the last couple of months, I'm starting to see some real greed come into play. But I'll reserve judgment until they, look. All I'm going to say that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is land claims, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. That's an interesting push and shove, but yeah, I think they were testing the water with that one. And they obviously got a lot of feedback on that, didn't they?
In terms of the microtransactions, like that was something I know early on, way back in 10th of the chairman, Chris said, look, one of the models I think going forward will use the model similar to what they use in Guild Wars 2 and those types of games. So he's clearly aware of what's going on with funding models. I imagine he's clearly aware of the kerfuffle going on with that went on with the gift boxes and other things. So he's going to use everything he can, I think.
Sorry, just to clarify, you mean loot boxes, don't you? Please tell me you mean.
Yeah, loot boxes. What did I call them?
You said gift boxes. I was like, what the hell is he talking about? But I understand now. I had to think there for a minute.
If they ever include loot boxes, I don't think we'll ever have a monetary value. I think they can do it alone just from things like ship skins, like decals, or maybe even like cosmetic-based items that you put as trophies in the game. Like, people will buy that stuff. People love that stuff.
What if they went the other way and actually made it so that you could actually turn in-game credits into real-world money? So you could almost like crypto mine
Diablo 3
by playing the game. Yeah, but like you could actually.
I think it's abusable. That's
no, but if you're happy to sit there and play for 5 hours and you get paid equivalent in real-world money, what 5 hours worth of your work is worth? So if you get $5 an hour US, because that's the minimum wage in the United States, that's $25 for 5 hours. I think that's reasonable.
Well, it sounds like a landmine for customer support. They'll be inundated with problems. We'll see. We're not ruling anything out. This is the important thing people need to understand. CIG will not rule anything out until they know the financial situation they are in at the time when the PU releases. Depending on how good they go, they can perhaps not have to do much more than getting a game package in order to buy in to play the PU. maybe Squadron 42 and a mixture of that and maybe some cosmetics may be enough to propel them into the future perpetually for the next 10-year plan. But if that doesn't pan out in some other ways, they can then look into more aggressive funding models, like what you're saying. Rule nothing out. If it works, then go with it. I mean, look at GTA 5. They've got a working funding model, and people may complain about shark cards and other things like that, but they are a business and they do an amazingly good job of it. It is a popular game.
I suppose the big question going on, looking at the funding model, is how's the model now, how's the funding at the moment, not necessarily impacting CIG, but how is it being perceived by the backers? How are the backers responding to the funding? And
I think that they're just skimming the edge of the perception of pay to win. So the fact that they've sort of managed to just stay above water from sinking into that shows that they're at least actively trying to skirt that, which is good, because other developers are they make no attempt to. They say they're not pay to win. They do double speak, and they basically just say, yeah, you pay money, you get better in the game.
Look, I've got a side question for you guys, and this is just my personal opinion. I am more of a fan of vanity-based funding rather than direct credit funding, because I actually think it actually does have, no matter what they say, it has an effect on the gameplay, because they have to balance the game around it. So if they're going to sell credits, it kind of turns me off a bit, because I know that I won't be making as much money in-game, and I'll be grinding my ass off to get what I need, which basically, like, if you look at something like Sea of Thieves that came out recently, you had to grind like crazy to get something, where I can, if they take the money part out of it, as in them earning money, it becomes a more natural, balanced gameplay process, and it's more fair, more fun. And if I'm paying them money for skins or whatever, and they're getting their money, and I'm still able to play my game kind of untouched and unbiased, I prefer that. And that's probably why the massive flare came up with EA's loot box controversy. But again, when I look at games like World of Warcraft, they just turned me off, man. They were just such a huge grind fest. And yes, there are some people that like to grind. I'll totally, freely acknowledge that. But I actually think you can have your grind
and cater to casual players.
And cater to casual as well. That's what I'm trying to say. So I actually think,
that was always Chris's idea with selling credits anyway, was
I just think
you can
idea.
Play the game is, but the idea was, look, the guys who only got 2 hours a day or 2 hours a week, they want to be able to play, they've got the option.
Yeah.
And speaking of WoW, bringing that in, that's another funding model you can do, is they could release expansions. Like, so many systems are being added in as an expansion. You buy into that expansion, you can then access that extra gameplay. I mean, look at WoW. Even look at Elite Dangerous. They do that sort of a system. It works for them for continuing funding. I think it helps revitalize the coffers.
I think expansion and new ships are definitely two things that are on the cards for this game, without a shadow of a doubt. I actually think they should do the decals, and I actually think they shouldn't do the credits. But that's just me, my cup of tea. What are you guys thinking they should try, and what things would you like to see in funding models?
Cosmetics.
Sorry, go on.
Go Hayes. Hayes, go. Go, Hayes.
Okay. Well, I suppose you look at other funding models in other games, like other MMOs. You could sell a subscription, and you could do a monthly based subscription. Maybe not like WoW does, where you have to. Is WoW still subscription based? I don't know. I'm so out of the loop.
It is.
Where you pay a monthly fee in order to be a part of the PE.
But you can also buy gold. That's why I don't play it.
But at the same time,
the one problem with a subscription, though, right, is they deliberately make it grindy, so it takes you longer to play. So you've got to keep buying subscription. I don't like subscription, and I don't like grinding.
There's another model of subscription where you buy a subscription, it gives you other perks and benefits. So you can play the PU for free, but if you have a subscription account, you get access to maybe more character slots. Maybe you get easier sort of a skill-based gain over time, or maybe it sort of gives you, a little bit more benefits, side benefits. I'm
So
not saying how strong that is.
You're talking Knights of the Old Republic, and they still string it out though because they want you to keep subscribing month to month. That's my whole point. Is
Ragnarok Online is another one I used to play where the subscription, it didn't give you anything too extra, but it gave you a lot of VIP based services, and it sort of gave you like a higher experience game.
The problem with that, though, is that they try and spread not enough topping over too much bread. They spread it as thin as they utterly can and then sell it to you at a price. I actually rather more content, more meat. And
like a feudal MMO, their subscription model is you get a subscription, it increases what you can do, and gives you a bonus in terms of your training, so you can actually get a boost to your training, so you can go up in your skills better and quicker.
That's exactly the same of Knights of the Old Republic, to a T.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, nothing is off the table here. Like, depending on how Squadron 42 and how the PU does and how their funding model is, these are things which can then sort of guide them in a direction to be slightly more profitable. At the end of the day, they're a business, and you should never take any option off the table. You should see how you go first and adjust accordingly to what you require.
I think it kind of comes full circle, though, back to what you said. This is the most accepting funding model we've seen of this kind, and I think they would be stupid to use what other people use. I think one of the reasons why it is successful is because it's different. I don't think they should do subscription. I don't think they should do credits. I think they should keep selling ships and sell expansions. That is what I fundamentally believe.
I don't think they will go.
No, I'm not so temperamental about what I think should be done. This more episode is thinking about what are our options, what is possible, and so I think that's more what we're looking at now. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with it.
Even if it was considered subscriptions were possible or doable, I think they'd steer away from it because they've always said it wouldn't be. And the subscriptions we've got are not for game development. They are for community content.
I think that might be also a thing going forward, Algared. I think you've touched on a really important point, that they will keep asking for subscriptions to keep doing shows. And I've got a feeling that ATV eventually will be a show that you see in the game. You'll be able to watch it in-game on a screen. Disco on a screen. Well, again, scares me. But
yeah. I have to see a Disco Lando in an in-game figure where they've captured his face.
Yeah, cool. It'll probably get shot a
lot.
Scary. Yeah, he'll get shot a lot. Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose the last thing we look at is loot box gacha style type stuff. Like, I don't think we'll ever see that. That is a funding model that is greatly frowned upon. It's certainly a possibility. I mean, there are games that have got that right. Look at Overwatch.
I think Overwatch is very successful because it's Blizzard, but I don't think it's right. Like, if you want that one particular skin, right, it's really hard to get. No, you can't. You have to buy. No, you can't. If it was the one that I think's done it right was League of Legends, because you can buy the skin or you can roll boxes and try and get it for cheaper. I actually think.
I played League of Legends. They didn't have boxes.
Yeah, well, they now have boxes. But that was the thing I liked about League of Legends. If they released a new skin, and it was a good skin and I liked it, I'd buy it. All right?
Yeah.
I think it's the same with Knights of the Old Republic. It's like that. You can get the skins in-game, or you can buy the loot boxes and have a chance of getting it.
Yeah. Yes, that is correct. But no, some were on loot boxes and some were direct purchase. Algared, they had both. They were very much testing the water there. But with Overwatch, I actually reckon you should be able to get loot boxes or purchase the skin directly. I'd much rather.
You can. It's purchase lazy. The skin directly there.
I'll get
from in-game.
Yeah, but it's really expensive. Like, and when they first come out, there were 3,000 credits as opposed to 1,000, and 12 months later they reduced the price to 1,000. Like recently, they're testing the water with Rainbow Six Siege. They had an outbreak event, right, and they did loot boxes for the first time. And they basically, I don't think it went very well because there was only about 3 or 4 skins out of 60 that were any good. And they were asking for 160 Australian dollars and you could just buy all the packs and there was no duplicates, right? So they tried no duplication then because they'd seen people hated duplicates. But the problem was the skins were pretty much fundamentally the same. There were this yellow radiation scoot for every single character in the game. And the problem with that was, one, it's yellow. Nobody wants to stand out in yellow in a first-person shooter because you're going to get shot. And two, it just felt so cheap because they'd put the same thing on every character. And that's why loot boxes are bad, because it allows developers to be lazy, and they don't have to be as clever or you know, when you like, and you can actually go look at the games. Like if you go look at League of Legends, where you buy them individually, and then you go look at Overwatch, I guarantee you'll see a direct correlation between the quality of skins. They are far better on a one-to-one basis in League of Legends than they are in Overwatch. Don't get me wrong, there are some freaking awesome skins in Overwatch, but there's some really crap ones too. And when you open those crates too, there's all this shit they've put into the game that you don't want, like sound effects, emotes, sprays, icons. Who gives a shit? You go into League of Legends, there's skins and the skins and the skins. That's it. They do have skins for other things, like your the things you can drop. I can't remember what they're called anymore. But the point is, they're all really cool. And if they're crap, they drop in price because they have to. Because people don't buy them. And I'm sorry, but that they don't like that, because it allows them to be lazy. And then finally, at the end of the day, it is gambling. I don't care what people say. It's a game of chance. If it's a game of chance, it's gambling. It's done.
It's made that way to be addictive, so that people will go, I'll just keep spending more money until I get the thing that I wanted.
Not only that, you've generally got to spend more, because it's a luck-based game. If you're trying to get one skin out of 100, as opposed to just buying exactly what you want. Yeah, now, I don't care if you're going to... What they need to find out is the ratio between what's fair. Like, is it, you know, if it's $10 for the skin, how many crates should it be worth? You know, if I buy...
I'm a big supporter of the idea that if you want something, they let you buy it, and there's no screwing around. You know what you're getting into, you know how much it costs, and you're just buying just that one thing that you wanted, and that's what you get.
And let's be honest, you're paying a lot for that one skin at $10. You probably only paid, like look at Rainbow Six Siege. I think the game is under $50 brand new whenever it came out. Like, I remember when you used to go in EB Games, and it was there for, I think it was $80 when it very first came out on a console. I got mine for about $35 the day it came out. But I've brought season passes year after year that cost more than the game. And that's only adding a map and a couple of characters. So, you know, and the skins that I buy that are $10, that's why they make so much money.
StarCitizen has the great ability to really take skins to a new level compared to other games, and decals, and like objects that are nothing more than hanger flare, you know, and just make it so that you can't really just make them exclusive for only in the shop. You know, at the end of the day, they have ability to take that further than other games, and they should really monetize that. I think they can make... I'm surprised they haven't done that already, to be honest.
I've always thought they should have more ship skins. I'd love to see a whole variety of, you know, racing ship skins, because, you know, hey, crack it up. But, you know...
Again, I was just going to say, I think the decal thing is the way to go, because I can see them selling different corporations, and you can put them on as racing things. And if they bring out a decal thing where you can move the decal around on the outside of the ship, and you can place it wherever you want, just custom decal seems like a really cool thing to me.
Pirate decals, like the mouth type things, and different sort of, you know, like crosses and, you know, skull and crossbone things, and people... Every ship could be a pirate ship then. It's not just I have to get the pirate cutlass. It's sort of like I can stick this on any damn ship and suddenly it's a pirate ship.
Well, crazy over there. I can buy the decals and put them on a ship, and I can get nose art. I can kind of have my ship kind of have that World War One fighter type style where it's, you know.
And it goes back to what you said, Hayes, about making the ship yours, because it might be a nose piece that they made it as, but if you can put it, in a clever way in a different part of the ship, it makes that ship yours.
Yes, and people love that. That's what people want more than anything.
We've kind of come full circle now, I think, from where we started.
We have.
So I think
we've actually talked everything we wanted to talk about. Yep. So let's wrap it up. Thank you for watching. This was another episode of the Inforunners. If you want to put comments in, check out our YouTube and leave them there. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We have a Discord, so if you want to make suggestions or ask more in-depth questions, that is the place to find us. This was Haze. Above me was...
I'm Execute, and this is...
And I'm Al.
And
we'll see you next time.
Take care.